Well, hello.
Oh, I'm going to sneeze.
We are we are doing an unscheduled Women Talking Wellness. Well, it was scheduled, but we had a little bit of a hiccup with the technical stuff. Now, I'd love to blame it on the technical stuff, but it was actually me. I messed up tonight. So if you were expecting to join Laura Exton for Women Talking Wellness at 7:30 tonight, she is here right now. I'm going to introduce her to you and apologize for keeping you waiting. And we're not going to hang around. We're going to get straight into it. So, a warm welcome if you're joining us for another Women Talking Wellness. Now, tonight we're talking about something that is considered a little bit taboo. It's still very much misunderstood, and yet, as women, it's perhaps something that we've all been touched by one way or another. If you've been here before, you know the drill. Grab a cup of tea, get into your comfiest slippers and settle in. Say hi in the comments and feel free to share your thoughts and your questions as we go along. If you're new here and if you managed to find your way here, well done. But an extra special welcome, and make sure that you say hey in the comments. Let me know who's listening and tuning in. Now, if you are watching this on the replay, I'm so glad that you managed to find us, because certainly the live was a little bit tricky to find tonight. But can you do me a massive favour? Can you take 20 seconds to type replay in the comments? And better still, share your biggest takeaway from tonight's chat. So, this evening, we are talking about PMDD, or premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And yes, I did write that down because there was a good chance I wasn't going to be able to say that properly. My guest this evening is one of my oldest friends, and it's fair to say that over our 25 years or so of friendship, we're both very different people than we were when we first met. Happily, we've evolved, and so has our friendship, and she's agreed to share a very personal account of her own experience of PMDD and the discoveries that she's made along the way. Now, Laura is many things. She's an entrepreneur, she's a mum, she's an event organizer, she's also a witch, and she uses her talents to support women across the globe in a journey of empowerment at all levels. Now, life has thrown every reproductive condition you can think of her way. And most of these conditions, nobody knew very much or indeed anything about. And for a long time, her way of coping with this was by diving into work. As long as she kept busy, put on that therapist smile and a bit of lippy, everything would be okay. Well, of course, you know the answer to that. It wasn't. And if you want to know how this story ends, I want you to stay tuned so that you can hear from her yourself. Let me introduce my best friend, Laura Exton. Welcome, Laura. Hi!
Hey,
We've made
love.
it! We've made it! Sally Rutledge, thank you for finding us. Yeah, we had just a little technical issue, and I will explain what that technical issue is at some point, but not right now.
No.
Laura, Sally has just said, "Love you, Laura. You saved my life." What a wonderful comment, Sally. Thank you for sharing that. And I think when you listen into tonight's conversation, you're gonna love her even more. I tell you. So we're talking about this thing, PMDD, premenstrual blah blah, right? Now, as women, we've all had a bit of hormone chaos. We've all had a bit of premenstrual something or other. What makes this PMDD so different, and why is it such a struggle to get any help with this? I would love you to share your story, and I guess what brought you to the point that you're at, because I know it was quite a struggle for you to get here. So over to you, Miss Laura.
Hey, honey, thank you. Yeah, what a giggle already tonight, huh?
Yep,
So,
we'll talk about that later.
so, hi everyone. Yeah, I guess sharing about PMDD is a real passion for me, and my story started when my period started. Let's talk periods. That's kind of what we do as girls, right? Um,
Absolutely.
And when I was 12, my period started. And when it started, so did the pain, so did the discomfort, so did the tiredness, so did the antsiness. I was just in a funk most of the time. And PMT and PMS was a thing. And most of us have heard of PMT, premenstrual tension, premenstrual syndrome, premenstrual stress. And they were words that kind of just became my everyday language. And I got really frustrated even way back then. My mum would take me to the doctor and she would say, I don't know what's wrong with her. She's got all these, all these issues and she has all this pain. And so at 14, the GP did what GPs do and stuck me on the pill. Because that's obviously, the only option that they had at the time. And I'd like to say it's different now, but actually, from what I hear, it's not that different, and it seems to be the answer to a lot of things. One of the problems I have with that is you've got a hormone issue, you don't fill it with more hormones and hope that it's going to go away. But what it did do is it helped the pain a little bit and it helped things subside a little bit, but it pushed my mood up like in a not a good way. I was quite angry a lot of the time as a teenager, and I know there'll be other women out there that resonate with this. My poor mum, bless her, I think was probably having the same struggles. And when I was 16, my mum had a hysterectomy, and suddenly we got on a lot better. And my dad was a truck driver, and he just refused to come home for like at least 3 days of every month. He would just be like, no, that time of the month I'm staying away. And I also got, because my mum had such a rough ride too, like it was the curse. It was like it was named all the horrible things it was named. So I never felt that I could embrace what was going on. And at 17, I was back in the doctor's surgery, and for every year that I was on the pill, I gained like a stone. So by the time I was 16, I was 16 stone, and I was a big girl, and that comes with its own issues. And I started college and became a beauty therapist, which is obviously how you and I met a few years after that. And at 23, by the time I got to Scotland, when you and I were working together, I had excelled in my industry. I was managing my own salon. I had my own spa. I got married. I came and managed your salon, and I was at a position where I did all of that because I was a workaholic. Mm-hmm. I didn't, you and I both know that one very well.
I know.
Don't leave that salon until we find that 2p. That's
a different conversation, not one for tonight.
Can I not give away your secret too? Anyway, so basically, that's how I'd managed my life. I'd got up every day and I'd gone to work and I'd been a workaholic, and I didn't really think anything of it. I just got on with it. And by that stage, I'd already had 2 miscarriages in my life. When you're told that you can't have children by a gynecologist, yet you're taking a pill all the time, for me, it was a bit of rebellion. It was like, I'm not going to take my pill anymore. Like, what am I doing that for? And right enough, I lost weight and I felt better in lots of ways, but I still had this like PMT, she says in inverted commas. And over the years, cutting this really long story short, by the time I had both my children, I'd had 12 miscarriages. I've got 2 great kids now. One's 9 and one's 15, and there's a big gap between them because there's lots of kind of stuff going on in between. And when I reached 36, I guess, so Savannah would have been about a year old. And I'd split up with their dad, and I'd met somebody else, and he kind of said to me one day, you don't need to work so hard. Like, why do you work so much? Like, I'm earning now, I'm here, I can support you, you don't have to work so hard. And so I started to work less. And as I worked less, actually the mood got worse and worse and worse, to the point where for anyone who knows me, and some of you all know my story, I was self-harming. I just felt like I was out of control. I couldn't really sleep. I had no energy. I was exhausted. But the rage that I felt, it wasn't an outward rage. It wasn't like I wanted to run around. I was almost manic. Like, that's how I would describe it. Like, I just had no control. And for a Leo who's a control freak, that's quite hard work. And I just felt like I had no control, and it was really hard work. And I remember sitting, and I kind of like to say that Facebook was a big part of this, to be honest, because I remember sitting really late one night. I had a big network marketing business alongside the therapy business. So although I was working less in some ways, I was still working a lot. but my work was different, and I was working behind my computer, so I didn't have to put the face on every day. And I remember hitting a really amazing kind of I had a goal. I had a goal that I wanted to reach at that point of that month, and I'd reached it like way before the month had ended, and I was really excited, and I'd reached this financial goal in the business, and my partner just was not very supportive. And I can remember feeling like whilst all this was going on and I was doing really well, actually everything else was kind of crumbling. And I could, when I sat down long enough to look at it, it was really scary that I had to say, okay, which part of this is me? Which part of this isn't all of that other stuff? It's actually me. And I just put in like premenstrual tension. I think I used the words premenstrual tension on speed, because that's what it felt like. It was like in overdrive. And I found a group from the States in America, and they were talking about premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And I started to look at the symptoms of premenstrual dysphoric disorder and went tick, 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 like every single symptom that were there. So the anger, the rage, the pain, the sadness, the need to, the kind of adrenaline rush, and the self-harm, all of these things were being talked about in this group. So I just started to get more and more information, and I gained more information and a light bulb. You know what? This is me. This is me. This is what's going on. And I had to make some really big decisions on what I wanted to do. So I was 37, I guess, by the time I had kept 6 months of diaries. And I urge anyone, any woman out there right now that's sitting there thinking, you know what, maybe I've got some issues, maybe I need to work this out. A lot of us keep a check on when our period is coming. We don't necessarily keep a check on how we feel every day, so that we've got any kind of comparison. So one of the biggest things that I read was get a diary and keep a diary. So I did. For 6 months I kept a diary, and I kept a diary of everything I ate, everything, my mood, whether it went up or down, what my energy levels were like, whether I could sleep, whether the moon was full or new, or where the moon was. How I was with my children, whether I felt hungry, whether I couldn't eat. I kept such a succinct diary, and that diary was what gave me proof of what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I realized that the doctors just don't know.
Yeah. If you're just joining us this evening, a warm welcome to you. I'm talking to Laura Exton about crazy hormones and generally how to embrace them. So give her a shout out in the comments with any questions that you have, and let us know your thoughts on what you've heard so far. It's pretty intense stuff. I keep a diary. It's actually an app on my phone. I use I think it's called Cycle. I think it's just called Cycle. And it maps everything from cravings to, whether I have a toothache or, because weirdly, I have hormone-related toothache now. Can you believe that? Which interestingly seems to bring on a fairly intense rage inside me whenever this constant ache in my tooth. About 2 days before I have my period and a couple of days after it's passed. So I've got about 5 days where I've basically got this raging toothache and raging everything else, and then it passes. But what's interesting is when you track that, it starts to make sense to you. Instead of thinking you're a crazy person and what's wrong with me, why am I behaving like this, why am I treating the people closest to me quite frankly like shit on my shoe, because that's what happens at that time. Why am I doing all of these things? I don't ask why I'm doing these things now, and I'm able to say, by the way, this is the few days when this is going to happen. And everyone's life is so much easier. So yeah, 100% behind you with the diary stuff, definitely.
Yeah, well, I think this is the great thing, that those things are available now. Like we're talking, I'm 45 now, so when I went to the doctor and I shared with my GP what was going on, she said, her words were, so got a little bit of PMT then. And I was like, like donk with the nose. And I just said, send me to a gynecologist. So it allowed me to get clear and to go and see a gynae. And to be honest, I guess this is part of why I share this experience with so many people, because there are so many women out there that are so fearful of going to the gynecologist. A lot of the time they're men, they're fearful of going to the GP, let alone the gynae. But a lot of gynaes are men. Don't ask me why, but they are. And actually, what I realised and what I've supported other women with since my own experience is how to get really clear and to wake up to the reality that they're human beings too, and they don't have all of the knowledge. And you have to get really clear on your own body and your own well-being, so that when you go to them, actually you're going with a solution, because they don't know the answers, especially general practitioners. You're talking a GP, do you know what I mean? You're talking like a general practitioner. They don't know the answer to everything. So what I did was Google was my best friend, people in the States, because it was a diagnosis in the States. At that stage, it wasn't even known in the UK. It wasn't a diagnosis. So I literally kind of had to go and teach my gynae what I was talking about. And so when I went in, I was 37 then. His only response was, so let's give you a hysterectomy. Let's take your ovaries out. That's it. It will be done. And I was like, whoa, that's extreme. Like, I don't know that I'm ready for that yet. And so there was a drug called Zoladex. And what it basically does is it shuts down your ovaries. There's various forms of Zoladex these days and various forms. But what it does is it shuts down your ovaries. So when I made this suggestion to him again, because I'd just Googled all the answers, and I went in confident, I went in knowing that I knew more than he did, and this was my body, and this was for my experience, and I wasn't going to be not heard after 25, 26 years. And he said to me, Laura, in those 26 years, nothing's changed. Like, we have all these advances in medicine, but nothing has really changed. So he agreed to give me Zoladex for 6 months, because my argument was, if you take out my ovaries and I'm still nuts, I'm nuts without my ovaries. Like, actually, shut them down. Let's check this works, and then you can have them if it works. So we did that, and actually he wrote a letter to my GP and asked for her to do them, and she refused. She wouldn't give them to me. So I had to go back to the clinic, and he gave them to me every month. And 6 months later, in those 6 months, I'd done lots of things. You'll remember, Lorna, that we started a business with a shake company, and I was fitter, and I was well, and I was out there, and I felt good, and it was like a light bulb had gone on, and like, actually I had a quality of life that I just hadn't had for so long. Because when you talk about PMT, you're talking about a few days maybe around your ovulation and a few days maybe around your period. I was crazy for 3 weeks, sometimes 3.5 weeks of every month. And actually getting my period didn't make it go away. It actually escalated after I got my period. So as those estrogen, progesterone hormones drop in, it would spike, and so it would get worse. So the Zoladex helped, and it took it down, and I got a quality of life. So much so that when I went back to see him 6 months later, he said to me, okay, so can we have your ovaries now? And I was like, no, I'm not ready. And I actually managed another 2 years on some really good supplements, some really good herbs. I had my life back together. I was exercising, I was meditating, I felt good. But over those 2 years, life kicked in. I'm busy with kids. I was on my own. I had the business, and it ramped up again, and it got worse again. And then I turned 40 and just went, yeah, you can have it all. I don't care. And actually, he'd written to my GP, and his words were, Laura's no longer a homicidal maniac, but she won't let me have her ovaries. I'll guarantee it'll only be about 6 months and she'll be back. So I managed it for a period of time, and at 40 it was time. And so I made the radical decision to have a complete hysterectomy. And touch wood, I haven't looked back since. Like, I have a quality of life that I've never had. And yeah, I wouldn't say I don't get grumpy. I'm a human being, but I can function. I've grown businesses. I'm running Sacred Sister. Like, there's lots of things that have happened in my life, and I've been able to support other women through this process to actually get heard. That's the key for me. It's not that everybody's got PMDD. It's not that everybody's got, raging hormones, but it's being taken seriously and not being told, oh, it's just your hormones, you'll be all right. That's the most frustrating saying that I ever hear. And I get so cross when people just blame, oh, it's just my hormones. Well, it's not just your hormones, it's you, and it's who we are as women. And so many women get wrongly diagnosed with bipolar, with mental health issues, with depression. There's lots of women that actually have PMDD, but have been danced around this circle for so many years because they actually can't get someone to really listen to them. And so mental health becomes the thing that they focus on, and it doesn't really do the trick. I've watched women, suicidal over this, and that's where I was. I was at a stage where actually I just didn't know what else I could do, and if it was going to be this bad, then I might as well let go.
Yeah.
So
It's it I think one of the interesting things that comes out of this is how we've kind of evolved to make even a discussion, even the discussion that we're having tonight around PMDD and periods and all of our natural cycles is something that is kind of, we're all sort of brought up to think this is a very unnatural thing and it's not to be talked about. And you said it yourself when we started talking earlier, it's the curse that you have once a month.
mm,
And I wasn't brought up in that environment. I mean, you know my mum. There was no shame around it, there was no embarrassment around it, but there was no great welcoming or celebration or anything else. And it was only certainly for me, I was mid 30s the first time I was introduced to the red tent, for example. And that opened my eyes to so much when I was training as a yoga teacher, or actually when I went into yin yoga, not my general yoga training. And it was a male teacher, interestingly, who introduced me to this idea that as a woman I was so lucky that I had this monthly cycle, because every month I get to completely detox my body. I never thought of it in this way at any point, up until then. Um, and I'm really fascinated because obviously you have a daughter. She is coming to that age where, it seems to be happening younger and younger these days, doesn't it? So she is of that age where it could happen at any moment. How are you going to make sure that she doesn't have this sort of same experience, and that she doesn't feel uncomfortable about her body and
mm.
its natural, beautiful functions?
Well, we're already, like, she's 9, and we're already going through that stage, and I can see that. And actually, one of the biggest things I have to be very aware of is making sure that it doesn't trigger me, so I don't react in the same way.
Mm,
I did a system called Hand in Hand Parenting years ago, and I'm now seeing that come into its own, in that actually I have to take myself away when it feels really triggered, because otherwise her and I just hit loggerheads, and she's 9. Like, it's not going to get any easier.
yeah.
And she's a big 9, and I'm already seeing her hormones changing, and she's got fluff, and she's got boobs, and she's got, she's changing so quickly, and she's beautiful with it. And I spend my life telling her how beautiful she is, how beautiful her body is, because I never experienced that. I experienced my mum, bless her heart. She'd go to the doctor and she'd be like, "Oh, she's got really big arms and she's got really big thighs. Thanks, mum." And actually, I've since been diagnosed with lipedema, which actually go hand in hand with the amount of hormones that I was put on when I was much younger. So, the outcome of being on all of those hormones has left a trail throughout my life. But for me, there was a fear around, like, she's never been around periods. Like, I've not had a period since I had her.
Mm.
So I had to really start back at the basics, and we picked up a few books, and I was horrified about what was in them. And we've just started the conversation in such an easy, natural way. And some of her friends at school have already started their periods, and so it's been a conversation that they've had too. And I'm heartened by seeing actually how much more open they are, and I thank the mums that are watching this of girls that age too. We are, I think if we can open up those conversations in such a gentle, beautiful way,
Mm.
we have a chance to change a generation of women moving forward. We have a chance to actually, for it not to be taboo. We have to remember that our generation came out of war babies. Do you know what I mean? And, they came out of fear. They came out of that place where everything was fearful. And we were like, we weren't, sex wasn't a thing for women. It wasn't discussed. It wasn't talked about. So I think when I look at kind of how we are as as us moving forward, and my friends with kids the same age, and yeah, we're all a bit hippie, but even my more mainstream mummy friends, I'm just seeing really beautiful conversations happening and taking place. And it's talked about on the telly. I have to say, we don't really watch telly in our house, and thank God, because I can remember the hideous adverts that were on telly about, what you could and couldn't do whilst you had a period. And so, but period pants are now a thing, like literally a thing. Like bamboo pants, literally they're a thing. Like who'd have thought it? We stayed away from period pants. Um, but yeah, you know, I think things have changed, and it heartens me to see that. But for me, with her, we've already started a diary. She already journals. We already talk about kind of how she's feeling. We talk about where those spikes are. I can see where those spikes are for her, and it's really easy to see because she's been brought up a certain way, and she doesn't eat dairy, and she doesn't eat gluten, and she doesn't eat the things that she's intolerant to. I can see when she's had something that spikes her too. So, sugar is like, you know, we all know how bad sugar is, but sugar with progesterone hormones is like, it's like, fireworks waiting to happen. So actually watching that change for her, and we use loads of plant magic, we use loads of aromatherapy, we use loads of oils. She's already in that kind of flow of looking after herself way better than certainly I did at her age. I just wanted to go and kick a football around the field and not care. Um, but it's different. She wants to put her makeup on even, do you know what I mean, in the mornings, and I'm like horrified. I'm like, yeah, we'll just take that away. We don't need that yet. So I think there is definitely a shift and a change, and I think if we look at our food, our nutrition, the way that everything is pumped full of antibiotics and hormones to get it to grow faster, so that we can eat it quicker, that all has a knock-on effect for sure in the way that life is for so many people. So I think that has definitely got a shift in the way that, like you just said, like periods are coming quicker and quicker for so many people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that there's more and more acceptance going on in the world, and I think that women are being empowered to embrace their femininity. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to Dana Dasha, who is, I guess, essentially you would call her a love coach, a relationship coach. And we were having a wonderful conversation about speaking from your vagina. And I mean, obviously she said, Lorna, you need to speak more from your vagina. And I pointed out to her, if my vagina is as chatty as the rest of me, then look out, world. but she was so right in that, like you were saying earlier about, you adopted that approach of just push on through, get busy, everything will be fine. You didn't honor the fact that there were times in the month when actually what you really need to do is get under a blanket and not move for 2 days. Or, there's times when you need to be away from people, and it's not because you don't love those people or you don't want to be around them, but sometimes we just need that space to ourselves.
Mm,
And I think it comes down to um, there is a sort of a slight loss of that divine feminine in all of us. We've sort of pushed that feminine side out because there's almost something considered very weak about that, which of course we know is entirely wrong, and that's a way of thinking that definitely needs to be shifted. But also it comes down to I think the word quite simply is self-care, and actually putting yourself first, guilt free, without thinking I'm letting other people down or I'm being selfish when I do this. Well, it's not selfish to look after yourself. How can you look after anyone else when you're not looking after yourself? I actually, do you know, it makes me think so much about when we were therapists working together. Um, for those of you who perhaps don't know, Laura and I met when she ran my business for me for a few years, and we both worked as therapists, and our life was about giving all the time. And I would say at least 9 out of 10 clients every day were coming into us. They were busy, stressed out women, and we would sit there with a straight face and say, you need to come more often for a massage. You need to give yourself a break. You need to give yourself more time. You need to do blah, blah, blah. Did we do any of it for ourselves? Hell no. We were in there whether we were dying of the flu, if, we just broken up from a relationship, the cat had got run over, it didn't matter. We were there giving our energy out all the time. And eventually, that well just runs dry. You've got nothing left to give. And I said right at the beginning, when we got together, that Laura and I have known each other. Well, I say 25 years. It's possibly even longer than that now. But over the sort of 20 plus years that we've known each other, we've both changed a great deal. We've evolved as people. I hope we've evolved, not devolved. And part of that evolving has been to just stop dicking around with our health. I think that's the only way that you can put it, to actually say, I need to step back from this. I don't have it to give at the moment. I need to top up myself and then I can help you. And that's something that we never did when we were in our 20s. Never. Agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. And actually into my 30s, and at times still now.
Even now,
yeah. We set up Sacred Sister Gathering in lockdown, partly because actually I have it's really hard to not end up having some negative relationships with women. Like, I had developed such a strong masculine in this coping, hardcore, strong, because actually part of me did not want to even engage with being a woman. Like, everything that was going on was so deep and so hardcore that I just didn't want it anymore. It was like, so I developed this huge masculine side, and it was hard to be gentle, and it was hard to be, and of course I cared for my kids, and I was there as a mum. But I, as Lorna will testify, went through a time where I was single in inverted commas, but I wasn't. I was out playing the dating game and playing the crazy game, and part of that was also about just not shush. So part of that was that's another book. Part of that was about not actually wanting to be seen. Like, actually, if I could just put this face on, even in that, and just be that person, I didn't have to let my guard down, and I could keep my guard up, and I could keep my strength, and I could keep in my warrior, and I could keep the fighting, and actually that was what became exhausting. And I guess it was having a hysterectomy, and almost ironically getting rid of all the bits that kind of make me a woman, that allowed me to be a woman. Like, it allowed me to have a better connection and a better understanding for myself. Because once all of that had gone, and the chaos that went with that every month, it allowed me to embrace the gentleness and the calmness and the nurture. And when I ran Sacred Sister this year, literally within 5 weeks, we were in lockdown. it was like everything had to change overnight, literally, like a lot of us. Our whole everything changed. Kids were off school. My therapy business went on hold. My online business was a little bit iffy because I hadn't really spent any time building it up. My partner's business, he runs a coffee business, that went. All of the events that we were doing, 19 events that we were involved in over the summer went. And I couldn't quite grasp what I was going to do. And I was like, okay, I'd been involved with Women's Gathering before. That had kind of come to an end for me. And so I'd stepped into Sacred Sister and I created Sacred Sister. Within 5 weeks, we had 140 women that gathered socially distanced and as it should have been in a camp over the summer. And what was beautiful was so many of those women that have known my journey were like, oh my God, look at you. Like, you're in a dress. Like, normally when I run events, I'm literally in a pair of black jeans or my shorts. We've got my my boots on, and I don't really stop long enough to have a shower for 4 days. But I was able to just stop and embrace actually what was going on, and even post hysterectomy, that's been a journey. I was stuck into menopause like overnight. Like, I'd had chemical menopause to begin with the Zoladex, and then I had surgical menopause. So, at 45, my body thinks I'm 55. It does hurt some days. It does ache. It does. I am tired. But when I push myself, I've still got it. Like, I've still got that energy. I can still dance. I can still fill up my cup first. And that's the key for me. The Nurture You groups that I run, the groups that I do now, and the 90 days that I'm doing at the moment, they're all about filling your own cup. Like, if we keep giving from an empty cup, there's nowhere for us to go. And so, like you just said, we didn't take time. I now, Lorna Green, have a massage every week at the moment. I'll have um, but that's partly because I'm broken.
The horror.
Partly because I'm so broken from years of not looking after myself. But it's like even that, like that breaking down that barrier of saying actually it's okay to do that. It's okay to look after myself. It's actually more than okay. It's so important. And I look at the women that are in my life now. You talk about these goddesses and this feminine. I remember Lorna saying to me, I was going, I can't do women's work. Like, I can't. They're all beautiful 6-foot goddesses. And she just laughed at me and she went, what have you been doing your whole life? Like, if waxing legs and listening to women every day talk about their problems and their issues is not women's work, then I don't know what is. And she's right. That's what we do. So now I feel more able to step into that place and say, actually, this is my story, and it is a strong story, and I'm blessed with the fact that it's empowered so many women to really take charge of their own lives and not just be told they're nuts, not just be told they're hormonal, not just be told they're bipolar and that's a wrong diagnosis, and not and all the other things that I see going on. And it's so tough. And actually, just recently, a good friend of mine who came off of all her hormones, she's been on the pills, contraception, all of that kind of stuff, came off of all of that, and has noticed such a dramatic change in her bipolar. Like, yes, she has bipolar, she has a diagnosis, but actually taking a lot of that out and not those hormones out has meant she's got better understanding of herself. So I think that's the key for me. There's two things: one, self-care, and two, understanding. Get to know your own body really well. Get to know what makes it tick. Get to know what works and what doesn't. Because no, if you don't understand it, no one else is going to. And if you go to a doctor or you want to be heard, and you can't go in there with that conviction that you know exactly what you're talking about. It's so easy to get talked around, because actually they're busy. They've got 3 minutes, if that, to listen to you, and a queue of 20 other people waiting to come in the door, and COVID now, to contend with. So, I think it's really important. And I wouldn't say that the hysterectomy in itself wasn't an easy option. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was a choice that gave me back my life.
Yeah. If you're watching this and anything that Laura's saying really resonates with you, then please drop a comment or a question for her. She is more than happy to answer anything for you tonight. Now, we're talking a lot about, obviously, PMDD is the theme of tonight's conversation. However, we've kind of cycled our way, pardon the pun, to self-care. And self-care is something that I know you're super passionate about. And you've actually just started something for the next 90 days that if anybody is watching and just thinking, well, this is all great, ladies. Yes, I'd love to look after myself a little bit more. I haven't got a clue where to begin. Then, Laura, you've got something that might be able to help people, haven't you?
Yeah, so I'm a busy mum, right? I've got two kids, as I said. I'm a therapist. I'm running events. I'm still doing all of that stuff. I thought I was going to have a quiet summer, and it took off and got really, really crazy. Um, and what I do in these 90 days, I've done it for the last 2 years, and I kind of forget every year that it comes around. And I tend to take the 90 days between autumn equinox and winter solstice, because those 90 days are when, if we don't find a way to get through, we're going to spiral down. We go into the winter. We're meant to spiral down. That's what the wheel of the year does. But we don't. We try to keep going. And then we hit Christmas and we run like maniacs through Christmas. And if we're lucky, we stop on New Year and get drunk and, and wave at people and kiss. We won't be kissing everybody, I guess. No kissing and hugging this year. And, that's what we do. And then we make all of these like New Year's resolutions, and we're going to be so great in January, and we fail in the first week because it's cold and dark and miserable, and we've still got like all the chocolate from Christmas. And it's almost like, why are we not starting now? Why are we're always waiting. We're constantly waiting. Wait until I've lost the weight. Wait until I can do this. Wait until and the self-talk in our head is massive. Like, it's massive for everybody, but as women, we're really, really good at it, and it's often negative. And I often say to people, if you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. I mean, you and I often say things to each other that I might not say to anybody else.
There's a lot of stuff that the inner critic gets to say in my head because it's heard you say it.
Exactly, absolutely. And so that for me is really key. So I've done varying degrees of this, and it's either 90 days or it's 21 days, and basically the theme is about loving yourself, and it's about giving yourself time. So I push lots of people's buttons when we first start this, because I'm the world's best at saying I don't have time for that, don't have time for me, don't have time. So I suggest that women get up before the kids. Like, they get up, they set their alarm, and they get up earlier. Now, for lots of reasons, that's a real button pusher, because lots of women are like, I can't get up any earlier. It's hideous. It's getting dark. It's not nice. So I do a Facebook Live at 6:30 in the morning, and it's alive, it's recorded, people can watch it any time. But my commitment to myself is to get up at 6:30, because if I get up and I show up at 6:30, then I'm up and I do it before I wake the kids up. Once I've woken the kids up, we are running through that day, and that's it. But I am the most productive ever if I get up and I show up and I do that for me. I'm not doing it for anyone else. Just for that half an hour, it's for me. I'm not showing up for any, I'm showing up for the group, which is great, and it makes me do it. But and the support that we get within the group is amazing. But we base it around something called SAVERS. So S stands for silence, A for affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribbling and journaling. So we go through a whole process that becomes a thing for life. You might take the journaling aspect of it and carry on past. You might, 15 minutes of reading a really amazing, either a really good book you can lose your head into, or actually some self-help, something that's going to really empower you. I don't read. I never have time to read. I don't even read before I go to bed at night, because usually the book ends up on my head. But if I read just for 15 minutes each day in the morning, it puts me in the best possible frame of mind. When I wake the kids up, I'm waking the kids up, and I'm gentler with them, and I'm waking them up in a good space. And I start my day with like writing my gratitudes in my journal, and it's like, okay, actually I'm in a much better space. And it's noticeable. It's noticeable for them. It's noticeable for me. And yesterday we've just started the 90 days yesterday. So anyone can join.
Perfect time to join.
Exactly. And for the first week, you can just drop in and see whether it's for you or not. And
Yeah.
then after that, we make it a closed group after the first week. So now's the time to drop in and see if you like it or not. Have a look at the lives. And don't put any spin on it, like whether you're going to like it or not, or whether it's for you or not, like, or whether I can get up at 6:30. Like,
Yeah,
I
don't
had a
overthink
lovely.
it.
No, just drop in and see, because this first week, to be honest, you'll get all the information that you need to know whether it's for you or not. But the support that comes from women being together and being able to share whatever comes up, yesterday was just about silence. We did a live talking about silence, and that's literally sitting in silence. It's not meditating. It's not trying. It's not doing anything. It's not doing anything. It's actually doing nothing.
Yeah.
And lots of even for one young beautiful sister who's got a young baby, she was like so triggered by this, like, I can't do that. I'm supposed to be looking after my baby. And but actually, do you know what? When I stopped to do school run of an afternoon, I turn the car off and I just sit and I close my eyes. It's like I might only get 3 breaths in, but it's 3
It's
breaths
enough, right?
that I didn't do before, and it refreshes me. So when the kids come, I'm like, okay, I can now give them what they need because I've just taken that moment for myself.
Yeah.
But the guilt that comes with taking time for ourselves, as women especially, is enormous. Like, forget it, drop the guilt. My kids, I used to go dancing when we were allowed every Friday night, and my boy would obviously got old enough to start looking after my girl when I would go, and she'd get really clingy, and she'd be like, "Mummy, don't go." And Tom would just say to her, "Savannah, let Mummy go dancing. She'll be a much nicer mummy when she comes home." And he just got it. He got that it was so important for me just to have that time and space and energy.
Yeah.
And it's really important. It's really important that we embrace that nurturing of ourselves.
You're really hitting some high notes here. Bilal says, beautiful, Lorna, thank you. Sally, the lovely Sally Rutledge is with us tonight. Thank you both for sharing this. You're both amazing. Thank you. I don't think I've done very much to deserve that, but I appreciate it anyway. And Sarah's with us tonight, and she says it's a great idea, read the journaling. So thank you for that. I hope it's something that you're going to try out as well. There's a wonderful technique that I've used for years of a morning, and it comes from, I've forgotten her name, but I will put it in the comments if you want to check her out. The book is called The Artist's Way, and I was introduced to that. Yeah, you know it. Julia or Judith or I've forgotten her name.
I don't know.
It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me.
It's a book. It's a book on my bookshelf. It hasn't come off my bookshelf, but it's there.
Open that damn book, girl. But there's a specific exercise in it, and it's called the morning pages. If you've never heard of this, do look it up. The morning pages is basically before you even get out of bed. So literally, you open your eyes, you reach to the nightstand, and you grab this book that is for your morning pages, and you write, I think it's 3 sides or 4 sides of A4. I can't remember exactly. But there's like a set amount, and it looks incredibly daunting when you first start doing it because you think, what am I gonna say? And what she says is, well, if you don't know what to say, then you start writing. I don't know what to say. This is ridiculous. I don't even, there's no way I'm going to be able to write for, 4 whole pages. And the next thing you know, you're on to like your 6th page and you're still going. But the thing that really appealed to me about this many years ago when I started doing it was the fact that she said that nothing is off limits. Now, prior to that, I'd always been exposed to the idea that you focus on the positive, and this is another discussion that we could have. This is another talk that we need to have in the future. But you have to, you're not focusing on negatives, you're talking about positives, whereas the morning pages is about anything that comes up for you. And the purpose of them is not to read them back and to see what you've said or go over it, dig into stuff. It's just to write. And at that time, when I was introduced to this, it was a yoga teacher friend that had actually introduced me to this. And at that time, I'd just gone through the breakup of the longest relationship that I'd ever been in. I'd left my home. I was bankrupt. I was on my own in my mid 30s. And I was pretty fucking angry at that time. There's no other way to describe it. And every morning I would get my pen out and I would go, right, well, I'm going to do this because what have I got to lose? And those pages, I mean, I was practically ripping the pages apart with my pen. There was so much stuff that was coming out. And what was really interesting was at the beginning of the pages, my writing would look different to the end of the pages. And to this day, I've never read any of them back. I still have all the books that I wrote at that time. I've never read any of them back. Don't really need to, don't see the point. But what I can do, if I flick through, I can tell where I was emotionally by how my writing looked. And always at the beginning, maybe it was a bit angry, it was heavy, it was, there was a lot going on. By the end, my writing was always really swoopy and swirly and soft, and that's how I would get out of bed. I would be like, I've just let go of all this baggage and now I can get on with my day. And that was a form of journaling. It works for some, it doesn't work for others, but it was a form of journaling that has worked for me for a long time, about 10 years actually, that I've been doing that. I'm not going to tell you that I do it every morning. That would be an outright lie. But most mornings, it is just a part of my routine.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that the key is, like you just said, about getting stuff out. And I would encourage you to go a little step further than that. If you've still got all those journals and you don't need them, the next full moon, you need to get out in that bonfire, girlfriend. Yeah, absolutely. It's done. It's done. It's
Interestingly,
time to
not
move
quite
on.
ready to do it. I don't know why I still have them all, but they're kind of there, I think, as just a reminder of where I've been. Don't know,
Sure.
not quite ready to set them alight, although I am quite fond of setting things alight at full moon.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
could. I'll
Um,
keep you all posted. I'll let you know. I'll do it as a live if I'm going to burn stuff.
yeah, yeah. Forming bonfires, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, for me, the journaling is like so profound, and often I kind of say about automatic writing as well. Like, just get your head out of the way and just write. Like, you just have no idea what's going to come. But if you can find also like the gratitude journaling is really, really like important. Like, if you can find 3 things to write every morning that you're grateful for, like, it's easy to look back and reflect on your day at the end of the day and write 3 things that were great in your day. But actually, if you can think of 3 things that you're grateful for in the morning when you wake up, like, it's such a positive way of moving forward. The same with the affirmations, the positivity, of affirming kind of the positive as you go into your day. But just one of the things I just want to really quickly say, and I hope she's still watching. Sally's been on the same journey. I supported Sally for a very, very long time, and we went through a real journey for her to get to where she is now. So I just want to kind of big her up and tell her how proud I am of her, because she's been on that PMDD journey, and she's been on it with me, and then we went on it together with her, and just watching how she's grown from where she's been, and her recovery and getting her life now back on track. It's just I feel so grateful to be able to support women that way now, and actually really step in and hold women's hands, because it's not easy once you've and this will resonate with anyone, whether you've had PMDD or whether you've had any trauma in your life. PTSD is a real thing. It doesn't just mean you've been to war and you've fought battles. You could have fought your own battle and still be carrying that trauma. And so the real work after PMDD, when you've had a hysterectomy or you've got or any kind of hormonal condition or any kind of medical condition, when you come out the other side, that's when the real work starts. That's when you have to start breaking the patterns that you've created that were either your coping mechanism or were your outward kind of chaos. And actually, sometimes you look back on it and think, geez, I did that. And being able to really own that stuff that you did in your worst time. I have to own the fact that, I self-harmed. I've got the scars to prove it. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't nice, and it's not pretty, and I've had those conversations with my kids, and owning that actually that was a time of my life and it was really painful, um, is huge, and that's where the work really starts, like breaking those patterns. I see so many women, and I'm in so many like groups, and I've had so many interesting conversations, let's just say, with with women that come out of having had surgery and say, oh, it didn't work, I've still got PMDD. It's like, you have no ovaries left. Like, you can't, like, that's an impossibility. Like, no, but you do have all of this, the emotional scarring and the patterns that you've learned that have come with you. And so actually that's where the deeper work is, and doing that work for yourself. And that's where the self-care comes in too. Like being able to forgive yourself for some of the crazy things that we do in that time. Even if we're just, even if we've had a row with our boyfriend or our mum, like with normal PMT, like, finding forgiveness for ourselves is so important. Treating it like, actually, if God forbid, if it was an illness, like invisible illnesses are really a thing. God forbid that it was something that people could see, they would treat it very differently. We would understand it more.
Will you be pleased to know that Sally is still very much with us, and she's just she's shared, and thank you so much, Sally. I have PMDD, and I've been on that journey. My life was full of anger, hate, depression, and Laura has helped me for over and over again. I've now had a full hysterectomy, and I'm living my best life so far. Thank you. What a lovely comment.
I got goosebumps. Yeah, it's lush. It's lush, and she's just about to get married too, which is even more exciting.
Oh, well, congratulations, Sally. Is it going to be an internet wedding? Can I come?
I don't know.
There's no excuses.
Yeah.
So I'm going to round things off now, and just on that beautiful comment and that high note, I'm going to put this baby to bed. Do you know, when women get together and share stories as candidly as Laura has, I think something very, very powerful happens. The things that we've discussed tonight, I hope have touched you in some way, have inspired you perhaps in some way, or maybe just made you feel a little more normal in your life. Our monthly cycle is something to be celebrated, honoured, and welcomed. And the more we can learn to live in tune with our natural rhythms and not beat ourselves up for being human, the healthier and happier I think we can all become. And people like Laura, and indeed many of the women that I'm talking to through these conversations, are here to support you on that journey and to help you find ways to live that wonderful, authentic, beautiful life that you deserve. I want to say a massive thank you, of course, to Laura for all that she's shared this evening. And remember, if you do want to get involved with the 90 Days to Love You program, it's on Facebook, and there will be a link in the description for you to follow. It only started yesterday, so you are not too late to get in on this. And finally, I want to say a massive thank you to you for tuning in, for staying with us, actually for finding us tonight because I messed up. But we're here, we did do our live, so thank you for taking the time to hang out with us and for sharing your own insights and your stories as well, and just for creating a connection through this crazy internet thing. Next week, I will be speaking to another Lorna. Can you believe? Lorna McLean. Lorna is a Reiki healer. She works with energies, and we're going to talking all about yummy, yummy energy stuff. So I do hope that you can join me again next week at 7:30, where I will be on at 7:30 because I'll make sure that I'm actually broadcasting on the correct channel this time. So owning my mistake, not feeling guilt or shame around it, maybe just a tiny bit. But thank you so much. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the interaction, guys. And yeah, hopefully see you all next week. Have a great Wednesday evening. See ya.